Hey, and welcome back to another camera comparison video. And what I have for you here today is the Microsoft Lumia 950XL versus the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Now, ever since I did the standard 950 versus the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which you can find up here, by the way, if you haven't already watched it. Since I did that video, people have been requesting me to compare the 12 Pro Max to the Microsoft Lumia 950XL. And I didn't have a 950XL at the time, but now I do, so now I can do the comparison. So sorry for the long wait, I just couldn't get one for a decent price, but now I did. On paper, the 950 and the 950XL are identical in terms of camera specifications. However, there is a slight difference, and I guess everyone wants to see if that slight difference makes a big difference when compared with the 12 Pro Max. So we shall see in this camera comparison video. Now, first, to get everything out of the way, I just want to point out this is a point and shoot camera comparison. I'm not messing with settings. I'm not taking the photos to Adobe Lightroom. I'm not doing anything to the photos. I'm not extracting HDR, nothing. All the settings on both phones, the exposure settings, the ISO settings, the shutter speed, everything is going to be left at automatic on both phones. I'm not changing anything. This is a point and shoot camera comparison because some people always type comments saying the 950 can be made better with with changes into the camera app when you adjust the ISO and stuff. This is not one of those comparisons. This is point and shoot. I just want to get that out of the way. This is basically to simulate what an average user, a day-to-day user would have done with these two phones, where he does not change any of the camera in-camera settings, ISO settings, etc., all goes and plugs it to Adobe Lightroom, etc. So no changes will be made. This is just point and shoot. Before we jump right in, also don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button as well if you already haven't. And check out all my social media down below, which includes Instagram, Discord, and Twitter. And now let's jump right into the specifications for this camera comparison. And if you do not wish to see the specifications, I've segmented the video into timestamps, which you can also find in the description, so you can jump right into any section you want. Alright, so let's jump into the camera specifications, first for the 950XL and then for the 12 Pro Max. So the Microsoft Lumia 950XL has a 20 megapixel camera with an f1.9 aperture and a 26mm wide-angle lens with autofocus and optical image stabilization. It also has Carl Zeiss optics. As you can see, it says Pure View Zeiss. It has a triple LED RGB natural tritone flash, and it has panorama and HDR features as well as any phone would have back in 2015. It can record video up to 4K at 30 FPS with stereo sound. However, for this video, we'll be doing 1080p 60 FPS because that's still considered to be the standard, and it was definitely the standard back in 2015. So we'll be doing 1080p 60 FPS video for the video samples on this camera comparison, and I'll also be sticking to 1080p 60 FPS for the 12 Pro Max as well. The Lumia 950XL can also record video in slow motion at 120 FPS. So it's 1080p 120 FPS, and since it's limited to 120 FPS, and the 12 Pro Max can do 240 FPS, I'm also going to do the 12 Pro Max's slow motion video at 120 FPS to be fair to the Lumia 950XL. Now, the front cameras on these phones, we're not really going to talk too much about them, but I'll throw in a few samples in there as well because selfies are important. I wouldn't say they're not. So the front camera on the Lumia 950XL is a 5 megapixel shooter, f2.4 aperture with video recording at 1080p at 30 FPS. So those were the specifications for the Lumia 950XL. Now let's jump to the 12 Pro Max. So now for the 12 Pro Max's camera. The thing with the 12 Pro Max is obviously it has 3 cameras, and we'll be only focusing on the main camera here to be fair to the Lumia 950XL. Now, I cannot do anything about the LiDAR scanner. The 950XL does not have a LiDAR scanner because the LiDAR scanner does help the main camera and all the other cameras as well with things like depth and color accuracy and nighttime photography, etc., etc. So there's no way I can turn off the LiDAR scanner, so it's there to stay, but you can take it as a part of the 12 Pro Max's camera setup anyway, because it is a part of the camera setup and there's nothing you can do to change it. So the camera specifications for the 12 Pro Max is, on the main camera, it is a 12 megapixel f1.6 aperture shooter, also a 26mm lens, wide angle. It has dual pixel PDAF and the world's first phone with sensor shift stabilization. I think most of you probably already know that. It is the world's first phone with sensor shift stabilization instead of optical image stabilization, where instead of the entire internal camera module moving around, the sensor on the inside itself is what moves around. Like I said, it also has the time of flight 3D LiDAR scanner, which helps with depth and color accuracy and etc. etc. Cannot be turned off, but it is a part of the camera setup here. It has a dual LED, dual tone flash, HDR and panorama features as well. It can also record video at 4K up to 60 FPS and 1080p video up to 240 FPS as well. But like I said, we will be doing only up to 1080p at 60 FPS for the standard video comparison, to be fair to the Lumia 950XL. And for slow motion, we'll be setting it to 1080p at 120 FPS, again, to be fair to the Lumia 950XL. The 12 Pro Max is the world's first phone with Dolby's Vision HDR feature, so it's a video enrichment software kind of thing that makes the recorded video much more rich and much better and much more true to life, I'd say as well. It definitely helps with the video quality coming out of the 12 Pro Max, because the 12 Pro Max is easily regarded as one of the, if not the best phone for video recording out right now. The Vision HDR feature only applies up to 60 FPS, so we're going to be setting it to 60 FPS anyway, so we're good to go. It also has stereo audio recording as well. The front camera on the 12 Pro Max is a 12 megapixel shooter with an f2.2 aperture and a 23mm wide-angle lens. It has an HDR feature as well, and all the other sensors that help with Face ID and stuff usually double as sensors to help the front camera take better photos as well, for example in portrait mode and etc. etc. However, there's no way to turn these off, so we're stuck with the sensors helping the front camera to take better photos, and that's just how the front camera setup is. It can record video at 4K up to 60 FPS and 1080p video as well up to 120 FPS as well. So now that we have the specifications out of the way for both phones, we can now jump into the camera comparison itself. We'll be starting off with daytime photos, followed by daytime video, and then we'll be doing nighttime photos, followed by nighttime video as well. All video will be at 1080p 60 FPS, that's where I've left it at, 1080p 60 FPS to be fair to the Lumia 950XL. Slow motion video will be at 1080p 120 FPS, again to be fair to the Lumia 950XL. And something to note while you're looking through these photos, the iPhone 12 Pro Max's photos will always be on the right side, and the Lumia 950XL's photos will always be on the left side. So now let's jump right into this camera comparison. So as you saw with those camera comparisons, the 950XL does still take amazing photos here in 2021 and does compare really well with a phone like the 12 Pro Max. But it's still nice to see that the 950XL is still a very capable phone when it comes to camera performance. The nighttime camera performance was ways better than the standard 950. So there is some truth to the 950XL having a better camera than the standard 950. So the 950XL indeed has a slight difference when it comes to camera comparisons. And I may do a full comparison between the standard 950 and the 950XL. Let me know if you want to see that down in the comment section below. But this was just between the 12 Pro Max and the 950XL. Something where I noticed with the 12 Pro Max is that when you try to take close-up photos with the flash on in pitch dark, the 12 Pro Max has trouble focusing. That is an issue that iPhones have for some reason. Apple still hasn't fixed it, because you saw with that photo of that really slim looking phone. Let me bring it here. This is the Nokia 7380, the second lipstick phone, and you saw that photo that I took of this in pitch black. That was taken in pitch black with all the lights off. The 950 had no trouble. The 950XL had no trouble focusing, but the 12 Pro Max still has that issue where you try to focus with the flash, it does not focus at closer distances. It only focuses at long distances with the flash. That's why the 12 Pro Max prompts you to use the long exposure setting instead of the flash itself, because long exposure is still more natural and better than the flash. But unless you just want to get a bright image and you just want to see the subject of the photo, yes, of course, the flash is much better. But yeah, that was the camera comparison between the 12 Pro Max and the Lumia 950XL. As usual, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave a like down below and also hit that subscribe button if you honestly think I earned your subscription. So hit that subscribe button if you think I earned your subscription, and ring that notification bell as well to get notified whenever I upload new video if you want to see more of my content as well. Also check out my social media, thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next video.